I want to ground for a second before slides or anything like that. And to acknowledge that in the work that we do, we hear sustainable pace. And with this conference is a theme, it's a message filling up the rooms, and I hope also filling up the minds and the hearts. Because 1.3 is the number of planet Earth we need to sustain the human population today. Closer to 5 Earth, if we all live like the tiny little section of the northwest slice of the globe. And that is not sustainable. So how can we, Agile practitioners, being change enablers, tangibly create a sustainable development? Beyond that, just to survive, but also to thrive. I'm Inés Garcia, I'm an author, I'm an Agile and climate coach, a circular economy professional, and a biomimicry practitioner. Also listed as the organization in action for Donut Economics Action Lab. So if you don't know about Donut Economics, I highly recommend you to check that out too. And essentially with all these different things, what I do every day is help organizations to deliver better value and to reduce waste. And we often think of waste of time, but also waste of finances, effort, materials, energy, right? And to focus on impact. And why? Because we should leave the place better than how we found it. And when I say the place, is the products that we touch and services, yeah? The people involved and beyond, the extension communities, and the planet. Because we know that our world is already 1.1 degrees Celsius warmer, and that's due to greenhouse gas emissions from human activities from one species. And even in this very narrow anthropocentric view, we know that climate change undermines our health, our food supply, our water supply security, essentially the very systems that supports our life on Earth, those on which we rely to survive, let alone to thrive. And I also want to make a note that those who have emitted the least are already paying the heaviest price. We are not on track at 1.5 degrees Celsius or even at the 2 degrees. Now, but there is a way, right? To ensure a livable future as a species, what we need to do is one, deep, rapid, sustained reductions of greenhouse gas emissions. And that makes me think about how can we adapt and shorten feedback loops? Rings a bell? So we know we're going in the right direction, so we can pivot or persevere. Second thing we need is a greater focus on adaptation. So we can be more fit to existence under conditions in an ever-evolving environment. Rings a bell? And we need emphasis on equitable solutions and scaling up systems, and that also includes finance. Organically, swiftly applying system thinking. We need enhanced technology and international cooperation because we know, and the work that we do, that is better when we do it together. The thing is that we have feasible and effective options available now. The question is, are you willing to be part of the solution? So this is where I want to share some hope. And the talk today is beyond the Agile Principles and having nature as a guide. And for that, I want to introduce you some fresh perspective. So has anyone seen this before? These principles are everywhere. And once you see them, once you know them, you're going to find patterns all around. These are the life principles. This is biomimicry. Is this idea of how we can turn into nature geniuses that already exist. Right? These are strategies that have been refined for almost 4 billion years of existence. These proven strategies of experience and innovation. And its core, this ethos, is what it does is create conditions conducive to life. And that's what we should do in everything we do, product, service, everything. Because the future is not to be predicted, but it's to be created. It's really up to us. Now, get your fingers ready, because we're gonna pop things in the chat. In the 17 minutes that we have, what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a repository of thoughts as we're going through the motions of each one of the principles. Now, if we slice it into, like, the top hub is about develop, is this idea of being locally aware what's happening around you. How can you adapt to changing conditions? There is a lot of synergies, I think, in the work that we do. And this idea of developing being dynamic, not static. The bottom half of the principles is all about grow, but it's how we integrate it in a way that is balanced, is efficient in the way that resources, and is life friendly. So aligning speed with our ring fence time. First principle, how we integrate development with growth. And nature does this essentially with three things: self-organize, builds from the bottom up, and uses modular and nested components. Think about a tree. A tree doesn't just grow taller, also grows its roots and its leaves. It combines this idea of modular and nested components. So the question here for you is, how can we translate that into what we do every day as Agile practitioners? How can we integrate development with growth? Just pop there the strategy. Continuous focus on learning, adaptation, Agile, yes. In the way that we organize ourselves sometimes, right? This modularity and how we nest things. Building from the bottom up, self-organizing, simplifying things. Yeah. And as a practice, as Agile arena practitioners as well, how we organize ourselves, how we find synergies across different groups. Curiosity may have killed the cat, but can save your organization. Right. Principle 2, which is about being locally attuned and responsive. And nature does this with leveraging cyclic processes. It does this by using ready, available materials and energy. It doesn't go and fetch that from somewhere else. It uses feedback loops and also cultivates cooperative relationships. And as an example, I like to introduce you to my friend here, slime mold. It's a single cell organism, which is often lovingly referred as a SpongeBob. It's not a sponge, it's a slime mold. And one of the fascinating things of these things is that finds the optimal route. So for example, on a maze, if you put food in the middle, it will find the best way to get to the food. And this organism was in fact used to enhance the design of the railway system in Japan around Tokyo, which had redundancy built in. So if one line was closed or overcrowded, you could still get to destination. We think about redundancy normally in negative terms. It's actually a very interesting strategy. So, question to you. In the work that we do, how can we be locally attuned and responsive? Oh, Francisco, I love it. You and I need to talk about permaculture one day with all the comments I've seen that you're introducing today. Yeah, act locally, think globally. What? Yeah, observation. Yeah, love it. I'm just gonna copy all of this later. Maybe Joanna, I don't know if you guys are keeping the script somewhere, but this is just a lot of goodness. We don't have time to go through each one of them, but this is our repository, and I hope we can find a way to refer back to it. Principle 3, which is about adapting to changing conditions. And nature does this by incorporating diversity. It does this by maintaining integrity with self-renewal. And it does this, sort of building up on the previous note of embodying resilience, and embodying resilience through variation, redundancy, and decentralization. And we hear this a lot, but we don't tangibly incorporate it in our designs. So how if we were mimicking some of the strategies that even our body does, right? So question to you is, as Agile practitioner, how do you apply this? What that comes to mind? How can you adapt to changing conditions? Local laws and rules, policies, even behavioral patterns, test and learn. Sometimes the only thing in emerging systems is the only thing you can do is poke, see how the poking reverts, and then make a decision. Wear different clothes and hats and thoughts. Diversity is also diversity of thought. Diversity of food, what you plant. Anybody is trying to grow some of their own food? Please talk to me about that. Yeah. How can we be comfortable of not being uncomfortable? And, you know, that idea of courage we well heard in the intro today. Principle 4, wow, this is going fast, which is about using life-friendly chemistry. And when I talk of chemistry, right, let's think a little bit metaphorically, although I'm pretty sure at the atom level, there is chemistry happening. But regardless, how nature does this, it does this by breaking down in benign constituents. Right? If in terms of pollutants, energy, reactions, toxins, things that damages, right? It will always break down in something that is benign. It builds selectively with a subset of elements. Right? We have a huge table of elements, but in fact, there is most of the times there is few of the 11 of those that are actually used. And it does chemistry at room temperature. How do we do these things? We don't do these things this way. Right? That's where the problems come from. So if you think of, I have the snake here to remind me that even the poison of a snake is generated on demand, locally, selectively, only in the needed quantities, and it fully breaks down without a continuous increase of nuclear waste facilities. And we get some things wrong. Or the second image at the bottom here, this is a sponge silica that creates robust glass fibers at water temperatures that can withstand huge amount of pressures. Or the last picture on the right, which is shrilk, is derived from shrimps as a bioplastic, and there are tons in this space, building from selective subset of materials. So now, question to you. How the use of life-friendly chemistry, what does this bring to you? Guerrilla gardening, Francisco. Yes, of course. As an agilist as well, in that environment, what can we do in terms of the chemistry and the environment that we grow? Product options that are sustainable. If you're coming to the XP23, I'll talk about circular economy there. What about the interactions? What about the pressure? Is people leaving the tension moments as a team better? That's also energy. Animal-friendly agriculture, like basically all the systems that we have around us. And whatever work we do, we can look to break down in products that are benign constituents. Majority of the way start at the beginning on the design phase, right? Microscale and reuse of patterns. Yes, 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 yes. Please save all these comments from me. Principle 5, running out of time. Being resource efficient. And nature does this by low energy process. And when we say low energy, think about materials, but also energy. We don't account for energy enough. It does this by using foam to fit its function. We normally design the foam and hope that it does the function rather than the normal way around. And it does this by multifunctional design. Things are doing more than one thing and always circling back all the elements. So think about the forest. The forest has about 2% of waste versus our cities that have closer to 80% of waste. Or multifunctional design, think about the forest still. Right? A forest does million things. It builds up the soil, collects energy, stores wood, creates habitats, holds up moisture. Variation, redundancy, right? These things go together. Low energy process. Here we have in the middle, our friend, a water bear, is a tiny organism that on extreme conditions, it can go into a cryptobiotic state. Only when the conditions are to a place that is needed, it will go back into function. And this is today being looked at how we can distribute vaccines in a way that we don't have to refrigerate and carry across the globe. Being extremely resource efficient. And then upcycles all materials, upcycles, not recycles, which are broken down in chemical components that can be utilized to even more organisms. A leaf doesn't become a leaf. It becomes food, it becomes habitat, it builds up the soil. So, question to you. In our work as an agilist, what these things, these strategies, what's bringing to mind? I see some previous comments of reusing of the spaces that we already taken over. How can we regenerate them? No zombie processes on service. No zombie, no going through the motions without emotions. Yeah, no zombie. Software, yeah, in the way that we design, architect our solutions also matters in the way that it consumes energy. How about data storage? And where is that sitting? And which provider? And last, which is evolve to survive. That's the last principle of biomimicry. Or I like to rename it evolve to thrive. And nature does this by replicating strategies that work. Find what works. It's okay to pivot and drop what doesn't. Reshuffle information, and it does this by different ways. Cross-pollination, the next generation, and integrates the unexpected. So what does this bring to you? Feedback loops, experimentation, constant innovation, yeah. Find where you get momentum. As agilists as well, we can like burn a lot of energy and resistance, and sometimes nature is really clever with uses of energy. Like think about water drip or something. It will always go in the easier way. So when you start seeing these patterns, you see them everywhere. And yeah, leveraging the current processes, working with nature, not against them. So I hope you are a bit like this. Now, super mega speedy version in about 30 seconds, right, of this liberating structure. So within the chat, at these things, what particularly has resonated with you? Why that thing matters? What are you going to do about it? Name of time. Keep them coming. Now, when confronted the challenge, the first question a biomimic asks is, what would nature do? And think about us in our agile world. How does nature distribute resources? How does nature process information? How does nature create community? The living world holds already answers for us to create more resilient and regenerative world. So it's really time to quiet our cleverness and stop looking at blank canvas and to observe and reconnect to nature's wisdom and start asking, how does nature solve this? Now, the transition to regenerative practices requires collaboration and expertise from a wide range of professionals. Sometimes it feels like we don't know enough, but we need everybody. We need creators. We need to being able to imagine to be able to create. We need designers, engineers, supply chain specialists, managers, waste reduction specialists, agilists. And by investing in experienced subject matter expertise, supporting those professionals that are putting time, effort, finances, they are dedicated to this cause, we can accelerate progress towards a more sustainable tomorrow. And I say tomorrow, not future. This starts now. So let's be part of the solution and continue to work together towards an economy that generates abundance, that benefits us all. Now, There's a lot on this and we don't have the time. So I prepare a bonus swag for you. This is a swag. So scan this QR code and you're gonna access more, like from the Agile Alliance Sustainability Initiative I mentioned at the beginning, to other frames, more on biomimicry examples and stuff like that. And I'm gonna leave you with this. So this is home. We must deeply understand this. All our conceptual inventions that doesn't support this home to thrive as a whole are flawed. There are no boundaries. We all breathe the same air. This is our home, which is not ours alone.